The Galactic Academy was known as the most advanced learning center in the entire Alliance. Students from more than 40 different species came there to learn about science, culture, and the shared history of the galaxy. The great lecture hall of the Xenobiology department was full that day. Bright holographic screens floated above the rows of seats, showing images of different planets. The lesson was about Deathworlds, planets so dangerous that most life could not survive there for long. The instructor, tall-scaled being named Vrek, stood in front of the hall. His voice was calm but strong as he spoke to the mixed group of young minds. Today we discuss the classification of Deathworlds. These are worlds that nature itself has made too violent for normal life. Extreme gravity, burning air, poisonous oceans, or storms that could tear through metal. Only the toughest creatures could ever adapt to such places. The alien cadets listened closely. Some took notes with glowing tablets. Others simply stared at the images of storms and volcanoes shown on the screens. There was a quiet hum of curiosity and fear. Most of them came from calm and stable planets where weather was gentle and food grew easily. They had never known the idea of a world that constantly tried to kill its own people. Vrek pointed at one of the holograms. It showed a red planet full of lightning and acid rain. This world, Neth-4, is rated Class 4 on the Deathworld scale. It has winds that reach the speed of sound and oceans that can melt metal. No known civilization has survived there for more than a few days. The class gasped. An insectoid student named Click clicked his mandibles nervously. Why would any being even try to live on such a place? He asked. Vrek gave a short nod. Because curiosity is part of life. Even danger cannot stop those who wish to learn. Yet no species from such worlds has ever joined the galactic community. At least that is what we thought. He paused and looked around the hall. Does anyone know what planet is considered the highest level on the Deathworld scale? A few hands went up. A soft-voiced avian student answered, Is it the world called Earth? Vrek smiled slightly. Yes, Earth. Classified as Deathworld Class 5, the most unpredictable and unstable planet ever recorded. High gravity, violent storms, freezing poles, burning deserts, earthquakes, floods, and creatures that can kill with teeth, claws, or poison. The atmosphere alone is enough to corrode unprotected machinery. The alien cadets exchanged uneasy glances. Some whispered quietly. One of them said, How could anyone live there? At the back of the hall, a hand rose. It was small, pale, and human. The hall went silent. The hand belonged to a young cadet named Mira. She was one of the few humans in the entire academy. Most students only knew humans from the history records or from stories told by explorers. Many had never spoken to one in person. Mira's voice was calm as she said, I'm from there. The room froze. Every pair of alien eyes turned toward her. Even the background hum of the ventilation system felt quiet. Vrek blinked once, unsure if he had heard correctly. You mean, you are from Earth? Yes, instructor, she said. That's my home. Click's mandibles opened slightly in disbelief. The avian student nearly dropped her tablet. A soft murmur spread through the hall. The aliens were not sure if they should feel amazed or frightened. Vrek slowly walked toward her row. You were born on a death world. How did you survive? Mira gave a small, almost shy smile. Everyone does. We grow up there. It is not easy, but it is home. Vrek studied her carefully. She did not look like someone built to survive a world full of danger. She looked calm and ordinary. She was of medium height, with dark hair tied back, and a simple uniform like everyone else. Yet behind her quiet eyes was a kind of steady strength. The instructor gestured to the class. Cadet Myra, would you share with us how your species can live on such a world? Mira nodded and stood up. Her voice carried clearly across the hall. We live there because we adapt. The planet changes all the time, so we learn to change with it. The storms, the floods, the cold, and the heat, they all teach us to keep trying. One student, a small reptilian creature, raised his hand. But you have storms that can destroy cities, yes? And earthquakes that split the ground. Yes, said Mira. We build again, after they end. Another student asked, what about the creatures? They say your planet has animals that hunt you. Mira nodded again. Some do. We hunt back. Sometimes we lose. Sometimes we win. The class was silent once more. The aliens looked both confused and amazed. They came from worlds where danger was rare and nature was mostly peaceful. To them, the idea of living with danger every day sounded impossible. Vrek turned toward the holographic display and changed the image to show Earth, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked peaceful and beautiful from space. It is difficult to believe that such a world is so deadly, he said softly. Mira looked at the image with a gentle smile. It can be beautiful and deadly at the same time. We do not hate our world for being dangerous. We love it because it makes us strong. There was something in her voice that silenced every whisper. For a moment, the class forgot that she was one of them, a cadet, learning just like the rest. She sounded more like a teacher who had lived the lesson. Vrek walked back to the front of the room. Your people are strange, Cadet Myra. I mean that as respect. Many species from calm worlds struggle to understand the will to survive under such hardship. Mira answered quietly. We do not think about surviving. We just live. Every child learns early that the world is not safe. But instead of fear, we feel curiosity. We explore even when we might fail. Click raised his mandibles again. Then perhaps your people are not only strong but also a little reckless. Mira laughed softly. Maybe both. That's what makes us human. Vrek gave a slow nod. I see now why the galactic scholars could never classify your kind properly. You live on a death world, yet you do not fear it. You adapt. That may be your species' greatest power. The class continued with the lesson, but the energy in the room had changed. Every time Vrek spoke of danger, the students glanced at Mira. She sat quietly, listening like everyone else. But her presence seemed to change the meaning of the words. When the lecture ended, many cadets stayed behind. They gathered around her with curiosity. Click approached first. Cadet Mira, may I ask another question? Of course, she said. He tilted his head. Do your people truly walk outside without armor? Yes. We use clothes to keep warm or cool, but not armor. The avian student leaned forward. And the gravity on your world is 1.0 G units, correct? Yes, Mira said. Is that heavy for your species? The avian nodded quickly. It would crush our bones within hours. Myra gave a small smile. Then maybe that is why we are built the way we are. Another cadet joined in. You said your oceans can be deadly. How do you cross them? With ships, she replied. Sometimes the storms destroy them. We build better ones. Their questions kept coming, and Mira answered each one with patience. She never boasted or acted proud. She spoke as if every danger was simply another part of daily life. Her calm tone made the impossible sound almost normal. At last, Vrek watched from the front of the room, his expression thoughtful. He had studied countless species in his career, yet none had ever made him rethink the meaning of survival like this human did. When the class finally ended, Mira walked out into the hallway. The wide windows showed the stars outside. The academy floated in orbit above a calm blue world. To her, the peace felt strange. There was no wind, no scent of earth or rain, no thunder rolling in the distance. She placed her hand on the glass and whispered to herself. It's beautiful here, but it feels quiet. Too quiet. Behind her, Vrek approached slowly. Cadet Mira, he said, I want to thank you for speaking today. I believe your words taught the class more than my lesson ever could. Mira turned and smiled politely. Thank you, instructor. I only told the truth. He looked out at the stars with her. Do you miss your world? Every day, she said. But I am proud to be here. Maybe if others understand what humans came from, they will see that strength can come from struggle, Vrek nodded. Then perhaps this academy will learn more from your people than we ever expected. As she walked away down the long corridor, her steps echoed softly. The alien students still whispered her name, not out of fear, but out of respect. In their minds, She was no longer just a human cadet. She was living proof that life could rise from the harshest places and still carry hope. And somewhere deep in that silent station, the lesson of the day stayed in every mind that had listened. The galaxy had many worlds, many forms of life, and endless wonders. But among them all, one truth had become clear. Humans were not just survivors of a death world. They were proof that strength and kindness could exist, even when the universe seemed to fight against them. The next morning, the lecture hall was full again. The lesson was supposed to be about interspecies cooperation. But every student could only think about the human girl from yesterday's class. The news had spread fast through the academy. A cadet from Earth, a death world, was studying among them. Whispers filled the room as students waited for the instructor to arrive. Click, the insectoid cadet sat beside his friend, an avian named Rila. Click clicked his mandibles nervously. I still cannot understand it. How does a soft species like hers live on a planet full of danger? Rila folded her wings slightly and said, maybe her people have technology we do not know about. No one can face storms and monsters with only skin and bone. Before Click could reply, the classroom doors opened. Instructor Vrek entered, holding a small data pad. He looked at the class and noticed their distracted expressions. With a low sigh, he said, I see that none of you have forgotten yesterday's conversation. Several students looked down in embarrassment, but Vrek smiled faintly. Curiosity is good. It is how we learn. Since you all seem so interested in Deathworlds, we will continue that lesson today. And perhaps our human cadet can assist. He turned toward Mira, who sat quietly in the middle row. She looked surprised, but stood up without hesitation. Vrek projected a holographic globe of Earth in the air above them. We have records about your world, Cadet Mira, he said. But the data cannot explain how your kind survives. Would you describe your planet in your own words? Mira nodded. Her voice was calm and steady. Earth is full of life, but it is also full of danger. We have mountains that spit fire, skies that throw lightning, and seas that rise higher than cities. But we do not see it as a curse. It is simply how our world is. Click leaned forward. How do you protect yourselves from the storms? Myra smiled lightly. Sometimes we don't. We build strong houses, but sometimes the storms destroy them. Then we build again. Rila tilted her head. You rebuild every time? That sounds exhausting, Esmira said. It is, but we do not stop because we must live. Every generation learns from the last one. Our buildings become stronger. Our tools become smarter. Our hearts become tougher. Vrek studied her as she spoke. Her tone was simple, but every word carried quiet strength. In your animals? He asked. Many of them are dangerous, yes? Yes, she said. Some hunt us. Some we hunt. Some live beside us. We learn which to fear and which to trust. It takes time. The class listened in silence. Every alien there had grown up on peaceful worlds. Their animals were harmless or easy to control. The idea that a species could grow up surrounded by danger and still build civilizations seemed impossible. Mira walked toward the hologram and pointed at the image of the planet's surface. This is my continent, she said. It has deserts where you can die of heat and forests full of life that can poison you. Still, millions live there. Click blinked his faceted eyes. But why not leave? Why stay on a world that tries to harm you? Mira turned to face him. Her expression was soft but serious. Because it is home. We do not run from our home. It gives us life, even if it gives us pain too. We learn to respect it. Vrek folded his arms. And that respect is what keeps your people alive? Yes, Mira said. We study the world and adapt to it. When it freezes, we find ways to stay warm. When it burns, we find ways to cool down. When it starves us, we plant seeds. The instructor nodded thoughtfully. Adaptation. That is the human gift, then. Mira smiled a little. I think so. Maybe it is our only gift. The room stayed quiet for a while. Then Rilla said, But your people have also reached the stars. You build ships, travel between systems, and even fight wars. That is more than survival. Mira hesitated for a moment. Maybe. But those things came from the same place. Our need to keep going, even when everything seems too hard. We build ships because we wanted to see beyond the storms. Click lowered his voice. Your people sound strange. You make danger sound like a teacher. Mira looked at him with a calm smile. It teaches us to be careful but also brave. Rek looked around at his students. This lesson may be more important than I planned. For many of us, safety has always been part of life, but perhaps safety can also make us slow to grow. The humans learn to move forward through danger. That is why they are here today. The hologram faded, and the light in the room returned to normal. Vrek gestured toward the corridor door. We will continue this discussion in the observation dome. I want you all to see something. Students followed him through the wide hallways until they reached a transparent dome overlooking the planet below. From there, they could see the calm clouds of the Academy's host world. The blue oceans and gentle winds. Vrek pointed downward. This world is a paradise compared to Earth. If you left food here, it would stay fresh for days. The storms are light. The air is perfect for most life. Now imagine a world where none of that is true. The cadets turned toward Mira. She gazed out at the view, her eyes reflecting the stars. It would look beautiful from here, she said, but down there, it would try to break you. That is what Earth is like. It looks peaceful from space, but every part of it tests you. Rilla folded her wings close. I think I would not last an hour. Click made a low clicking sound. Neither would I. Mira gave a soft laugh. You might, if you had time to learn. Humans are not strong because we are born that way. We become strong because we have to. Vrek smiled at that. You speak with pride, Cadet Myra. That is good. But tell me, do all your people see it that way? Not always, she said. Some wish the world were easier. Some forget how lucky we are to be able to survive there. But most know that our world made us what we are. Vrek's scales glimmered under the dome light. Then your home is not only a death world. It is a teacher, a forge, and a test. Mira nodded. That is a good way to say it. Instructor turned to the rest of the class. Tomorrow, the Academy will run a simulation program. Each of you will experience a different level of environmental difficulty. You will feel what it is like to survive for 1 hour under conditions inspired by Deathworlds. This will help you understand what our human friend speaks of. Click tilted his head. We will face storms and heat. Yes, said Vrek, but nothing that will harm you. The program is designed for education, not danger. Rilla looked uneasy. Still, it sounds frightening, Shmira said gently. It is only frightening until you learn that fear is a signal, not a wall. When you feel afraid, your body is telling you to pay attention. On Earth, we listen to that signal. It keeps us alive. The aliens exchanged glances. Her words seemed strange but wise. Vrek ended the session and dismissed the class. The students left in quiet thought. Myra stayed behind, watching the stars through the dome. Click hesitated at the doorway, then turned back. Mira, may I ask something before I go? She smiled. Sure. Do you ever wish your world were safer? Mira looked at him for a moment before answering. Sometimes, but if it were safer, we might have never learned how strong we could be. Click nodded slowly and left the room. Later that evening, the Academy corridors were silent. Myra sat in the library, surrounded by books and holographic texts. Most of them described alien planets, peaceful and perfect. She read them with interest. But part of her missed the noise of thunder and the smell of rain. A few alien cadets entered the library quietly. They noticed her and came closer. Rilla spoke first. Mira, we were wondering, do your people ever relax? How do you find peace on a world that is always dangerous? Mira thought for a while before replying. We find peace in small things. A quiet evening. A fire on a cold night. The sound of waves. We cannot make the world safe, but we make moments safe. The aliens listened closely. It was a strange way of thinking to them. Their worlds were peaceful all the time, so they never needed to search for calm. But to Mira's people, peace was something earned and treasured. When the library lights dimmed for the night cycle, Mira stood and smiled at them. "Good night," she said. "Rest well before the simulation tomorrow. It may surprise you." They smiled back nervously. When she left, Rilla whispered to Click, "She sounds so calm, like she is not afraid of anything." Click clicked softly. Maybe that is what it means to be from a death world. That night, Mira lay awake in her dorm room. The stars outside the window looked still and peaceful, but her thoughts were far away. She remembered her home, the smell of rain-soaked soil, the wind rushing through trees, the flash of lightning far on the horizon. Those things had once frightened her as a child, but now she missed them. She whispered softly to herself, "They think Earth is impossible. But maybe it is just honest. It shows us what life really is." She closed her eyes and drifted to sleep, dreaming of oceans, storms, and sunlight. The next day would bring the Simulation A test that would show the others what survival truly meant. Morning light spread through the transparent walls of the Academy dome as students gathered inside the training hall. The wide room was full of equipment, glowing screens, and small simulation pods. Instructor Vrek stood in front of the group, his long tail moving slowly behind him. He looked both proud and serious. "Today," he began, "you will experience a controlled environment inspired by death world conditions. It is not real danger, but it will feel real. You will see what it means to survive where nature shows no mercy." The students stood in silence. Some tried to look brave while others showed open worry. Click's antennae twitched. Rilla kept her wings folded tight. A reptilian cadet named Soren rubbed his hands together nervously. Vrek continued, "Each pod will generate a different kind of environment. Some will face freezing cold. Some will face extreme heat or wind. Cadet Myra will participate as well, but her simulation will not be adjusted. She will experience the same conditions as all of you, without extra protection." The class looked at Mira. She stood calmly beside her pod, her face relaxed and focused. She did not seem afraid. Click whispered to Rilla, "How can she look so calm?" Rilla whispered back, "Maybe this is normal for her kind." Rek lifted his hand. "Remember, this is not a competition. It is a lesson. You must learn how you respond when the world fights against you." He pressed a button on his data pad, and the pods opened. One by one, the cadets stepped inside. The transparent lids closed, and the lights dimmed. The room fell silent except for the hum of the machines. Inside her pod, Mira took a deep breath. The air shimmered, and the scene changed around her. She was standing on rocky ground under a dark sky. Cold wind rushed past her. In the distance, lightning flashed across heavy clouds. The simulation had begun. A voice in her ear spoke softly. It was the system's AI simulation start. Environment set to Class 3 difficulty. Objective: survive for 1 hour and assist others, if possible. Mira nodded, even though no one could see her. She moved forward slowly, testing the ground beneath her boots. It shifted like loose gravel. Wind pulled at her clothes, and ice began to form on the rocks. She kept moving. Meanwhile, in other pods, the alien cadets were struggling. Click's simulation placed him in a desert where heat waves burned through the air. His outer shell dried quickly, and he felt dizzy. "Water," he muttered, trying to remember his training. He stumbled toward a small rock formation for shade. Rilla's world was worse. She stood in a forest where rain poured like sheets of glass. The water stung her feathers, and thunder echoed above. She tried to fly, but the wind pushed her back down. "This cannot be real," she whispered, trembling. Back in Mira's pod, she was climbing a hill against the freezing wind. Her fingers were stiff, but she moved with practiced care. She remembered cold winters from her childhood, when ice covered the windows of her home. Compared to those days, this simulation felt almost familiar. She saw a flicker of light ahead. It was another cadet's signal beacon. She moved toward it and found a small figure crouched behind a rock. It was Soren, the reptilian student. His breathing was heavy, and his skin had turned pale blue from the cold. "Mira," he said weakly, "the air is too cold. I cannot move." Mira knelt beside him. "You can. Wrap your arms close and keep breathing slowly." I will freeze, he said. Not if you stay calm. Use your breath to control your body. Focus on the rhythm. Here, hold this. She handed him a heating patch from her emergency kit. Soren pressed it against his chest, and warmth began to spread. How do you know this? He asked. I grew up with winters worse than this, she said with a small smile. You will be fine. You just need to trust yourself.
Wait.
The minutes passed slowly. The wind grew stronger. Mira built a small barrier from stones to block the gusts. She stayed beside Soren, checking his temperature readings. When his breathing steadied, she stood up. I will check the signal range. Stay here. Soren looked up at her. You are not afraid? Of the cold? She said. No, fear does not help. Movement helps. Thinking helps. Fear only makes you slower. She walked up the hill again, each step sinking slightly in the ice. When she reached the top, she saw a second beacon flashing to the east. She tapped her wrist device. System. Identify the source, Cadet Rila, the AI replied. Status unstable. Vital signs low. Mira turned immediately and ran. In Rila's pod, the avian cadet was shivering. Her wings were heavy with rain, and her vision blurred. She had tried to build a shelter from branches, but they kept breaking in the wind. I cannot do this, she whispered. The storm is too strong. Suddenly, she heard a voice through her communicator. Rila, can you hear me, Mira? She said weakly. Yes, stay where you are. I am coming. Within minutes, Mira appeared through the storm, her uniform soaked, but her steps steady. She reached Rila and pulled her under the broken branches. You are losing body heat, Mira said quickly. We need to block the wind. Help me stack these pieces. Rila's hands shook. I cannot. They are too slippery. Then hold them. I will build. Mira worked fast, placing the branches in a tight pattern. The shelter held just enough to stop the direct wind. She tore a strip from her uniform sleeve and tied it around Rila's shoulders. That will keep some warmth in. Rila looked at her with wide eyes. You move as if this is nothing. Mira smiled slightly. It is hard but not new. On Earth, storms like this come often. We learn to work inside them. The two stayed close under the shelter until the system voice announced, simulation complete. Cadets will now be returned to base environment. The storm faded. The cold disappeared. The pod lights turned back to normal. Myra looked around as the simulated world melted away. When the pods opened, the cadets stepped out slowly. Most were shaking or pale. Click leaned against a wall, his breathing fast. Rila looked tired but alive. Soren followed Myra, still clutching the heating patch. Vrek walked to the center of the room. Cadets, the simulation has ended. Your reactions were recorded. Let us review the results. He pressed a control, and data appeared on the main screen. Each name showed stress levels, heart rate, and problem-solving response time. Most cadets had high stress levels and incomplete objectives. Only one stood out. Cadet Myra, Vrek said. Your stress levels remained within safe range. You completed 2 rescue actions and 1 structural build. How do you explain this? Mira looked around at her classmates. I just followed what I learned at home. When things get hard, you stay calm and look for the next step. Panic does not help. Moving does? Click raised his hand. You helped others even when you could have focused on your own safety. Why? Mira answered simply. Because survival is stronger when it is shared. On Earth, no one lives long alone. The hall went quiet. Even Vrek seemed thoughtful. That is a lesson worth remembering, he said. You not only endured the environment, but also brought others through it. That is the true spirit of adaptation. Soren spoke next, his voice full of respect. I would not have made it without her. She stayed with me until I could move again. What? Rila nodded. She found me too. I was ready to quit, but she did not let me. Vrek looked at Mira. You changed the purpose of this simulation. It was meant to test fear, but you turned it into cooperation. Mira lowered her eyes modestly. On my planet, we do not survive by being alone. Even the strongest need help sometimes. Vrek smiled slightly. Your words carry more wisdom than most books. Perhaps your kind is not dangerous because of your world. Perhaps your world shaped you to care in ways others forget. After class ended, the cadets gathered around Mira. Click clacked his mandibles in amusement. You humans truly are strange. You make danger look simple. Mira laughed softly. It is not simple. You just get used to it. The world teaches you to stay calm even when everything feels wrong. Rilla asked. Does that mean you never feel fear? I do, Mira said. But fear does not mean weakness. It means you care about staying alive. The group walked out together, their earlier fear replaced with curiosity. For the first time, they did not see Myra as fragile or small. They saw her as strong in a quiet human way. That evening, Vrek called Mira to his office. His workspace was filled with floating screens showing simulation results. He gestured for her to sit. Cadet Mira, your performance today has given the Academy something new to think about. We have studied Deathworlds for centuries, but we never had a living example in our classrooms. You have shown that survival is not only about strength, it is about balance and cooperation. Mira smiled politely. Thank you, instructor. I am glad the test was useful. Vrek leaned forward. It was more than useful. It was inspiring. Many cadets fear nature. They avoid discomfort. But you showed that even danger can be faced with calm purpose. I will include your example in the next lesson, Mira nodded. If it helps others understand my world better, I am happy to share. Vrek looked at her thoughtfully. Tell me something, Mira. When you face storms and fear, what keeps you moving forward? She looked out the window at the stars. Hope, we always believe that after the storm, there will be light again. That belief is stronger than any fear. Vrek sat in silence for a moment. Then he said, Perhaps the galaxy needs that hope more than anything else. When Myra left his office, the halls were quiet. She walked past the other cadets' rooms and saw them talking together, sharing their experiences from the simulation. For the first, the academy corridors were quieter after the survival test. Every student remembered how Mira had faced the storm with calm and courage. Many still talked about it in the dining halls and study rooms. The insectoid cadet Click often said to others, if not for Myra, some of us would have failed that test. The lizard-like student Ral always nodded in agreement. Even the cold-blooded ones who never showed emotions began to look at Mira. With a mix of respect and wonder, Mira did not see herself as special. She continued her routine like before. She attended classes, practiced in the training halls, and helped others with their work. But she noticed the change around her. Whenever she entered a room, conversations stopped for a moment. The others made space for her, not out of fear, but out of silent admiration. One afternoon, the instructor Vrek called her to his office. His walls were filled with hollow screens showing data about planets, life forms, and environmental conditions. Vrek's scales shimmered in shades of blue and green as he turned toward her. Mira, he said, you have given this academy a new perspective. The test results are still being studied by the science board. Many cannot believe a human can stay calm in a class for hazard simulation without advanced protection. Mira gave a small smile. I only did what needed to be done. Back on Earth, people learn early to stay calm when things go wrong. Vrek leaned forward. What kind of world is Earth really? The data shows danger, but danger alone cannot make people like you. What shapes such strength? Mira thought for a moment. She looked out the window at the stars beyond. We are not strong because the world is cruel. We are strong because we have each other. We help one another even when things look hopeless. That is what keeps us alive. Vrek nodded slowly. Perhaps the rest of us have forgotten that. Many of our species survive by avoiding danger. You humans seem to run toward it when others need help. After that talk, Vrek changed the way he taught the class. He added new lessons that focused on teamwork, empathy, and adaptation. He often asked Myra to explain how humans face different disasters. Her stories amazed the class. She spoke of earthquakes where people risked their lives to save strangers, of floods where whole communities rebuilt from nothing, of space missions where humans faced endless darkness yet refused to give up. The other cadets listened with open minds. Some took notes not only for exams, but for life itself. The insectoid clique started studying human problem-solving methods. Ral tried to practice calm breathing like Mira during stressful drills. Even the smallest student, a jelly-like creature named C, began asking Mira for tips on staying strong. Weeks passed, and the academy prepared for a major field mission. The assignment was to explore an uncharted moon near the edge of the local system. The moon had a thin atmosphere, sharp temperature shifts, and unstable terrain. It was meant to test their ability to adapt and survive in unknown environments. The cadets were divided into groups, and Mira's team included Click, Ral, and C. Vrek personally oversaw their briefing. "This mission will test your teamwork," he said. "You will face weather patterns and mechanical failures. Remember your training and keep your minds clear." The shuttle descended toward the moon's surface. The view outside showed gray rocks and bright blue cracks where strange gases escaped from the ground. Mira watched carefully, noticing every flicker of lightning across the horizon. She had a feeling that this moon was not stable. When the group landed, they began setting up sensors and shelters. Everything went smoothly for the first few hours. They collected samples, took readings, and sent reports back to the station. The air was cold, but manageable. Mira worked quietly, checking her team's equipment and making sure no one fell behind. Then the first tremor hit. The ground shook violently and a loud rumble echoed from beneath. Ral lost balance and fell, his datapad sliding across the rocks. Mira rushed to help him up. "Stay close," she said firmly. "The ground is unstable." The tremors grew stronger. A warning light blinked on Click's wrist device. "Energy storm approaching," he said in panic. "Our shields cannot last against it." "Then we need shelter," Mira replied. She looked around and spotted a cluster of large rock formations nearby. "Over there? We can use those for cover." They ran toward the rocks as wind began to rise. The sky turned violet, and silver streaks flashed across the clouds. Bolts of energy struck the ground, sending waves of static through their suits. One hit too close, and C screamed as her communication system shut down. Mira didn't hesitate. She pulled C behind the rocks and started building a makeshift shelter. Using pieces from their damaged drones and metal sheets from the rover, she created a rough wall. Ral and Click followed her lead. Soon, they had a small protected space. The storm raged outside for hours. The temperature dropped sharply, and their suits began to lose heat. Mira shared her power pack with C to keep her system warm. Ral tried to signal the academy, but interference blocked the transmission. "We have to wait it out," Mira said. "Save your power. We will rotate watch every 2 hours." Click looked worried. "How do you stay so calm, Mira? The sky itself is falling apart." Mira gave him a tired but steady look. "Because fear does not fix anything. If I lose focus, we all lose. My people learned that lesson long ago." Night fell, and the storm grew silent for a while. The small team huddled together in the cold. Mira told them stories to keep their minds steady. She spoke of mountain climbers who reached great heights with frozen hands, of deep-sea divers who explored the dark oceans, of families who rebuilt their homes after every disaster. Her voice was soft but firm, and it gave the others courage. When morning came, the air was clear again, but their ship was half buried under debris. They worked for hours to dig it out. Myra organized the group like a captain. She gave simple orders, shared water, and made sure everyone rested. By the time the rescue team arrived, the group had survived 2 days without full supplies. The rescue commander could hardly believe it. "You managed to keep your team alive under these conditions?" he asked. Mira simply nodded. "We just did what humans always do. We adapt." Back at the academy, the incident became known as the Moon Survival Mission. The head instructors reviewed the data and declared Mira's team as the top group of the year. They credited her leadership and calm decision-making. During the ceremony, Vrek addressed the entire class. His voice carried pride and wisdom. "For generations, we studied Deathworlds to understand danger. But today, we have learned that danger is not the true lesson. The real lesson is strength born from cooperation, hope, and endurance. These are the qualities that make humanity stand apart. The hall erupted with applause. Mira stood quietly among her classmates, feeling a mix of pride and humility. She did not see herself as special. She only saw herself as human. After the ceremony, some students approached her. Click said, "You changed how we see humans, Myra. I thought your species was reckless, but now I see you are brave," Rawl added. "You made me realize that survival is more than running from danger. It is standing firm even when the world shakes." X's jelly-like form glowed softly. "You shared warmth when I thought I would fade. I will never forget that." Myra smiled. "We all survived because we worked together. That is what matters." Later that night, she walked alone on the observation deck, looking at the distant stars. She thought of Earth's wild storms, endless seas, and warm sunlight. She missed the smell of rain and the sound of waves. Vrek joined her quietly. "You taught them more than any book could," he said. "Perhaps it is time the galaxy stopped fearing Deathworlds and started learning from them."
Ow.
Mira turned to him. "Maybe the galaxy already has. Maybe it just needed to see a death world through human eyes." Vrek nodded. "And what do you see when you look at your world now?" Mira smiled. "Home. A place that tests us every day, but also makes us who we are." The stars shone brighter as if agreeing with her words. From that day forward, the Galactic Academy began a new tradition. Every new class of cadets would hear the story of the human who came from a death world and taught the galaxy that survival is not about fear, it is about heart, and somewhere on Earth. Under the same stars, others like Myra continued to live, adapt, and grow. Because that is what humans always do. They endure, they learn, and they keep going, no matter how harsh the world becomes. The Galactic Academy stood silent in the early light of dawn. Across the great halls and shining corridors, students were preparing for the most important event of their training, the graduation ceremony. Every cadet had spent years learning how to explore unknown planets, how to understand life beyond their home worlds, and how to work together as one united group of species. Among them was Mira, the human cadet from the so-called Death World. She sat near the wide observation window in her dorm room, watching the slow spin of the stars. The ceremony would begin soon, and her heart felt heavy with thoughts. It had been a long journey from the day she raised her hand in class to say, "I am from there," to the day she led her team through storms and danger. She had seen fear, courage, and change among her classmates. Now she would have to say goodbye. Her uniform was simple, clean, and marked with a small silver symbol, the mark of survival excellence. Only a few cadets in the history of the Academy had ever earned it. It represented more than skill. It stood for strength, endurance, and the spirit to never give up. As she looked at her reflection in the glass, she smiled faintly. Her brown hair was tied back neatly, and her eyes carried calm confidence. She was no longer the quiet student who sat at the back of the classroom. She was a leader now, though she had never sought that title. A soft knock came at her door. When she opened it, she found Click standing there, holding a small metal charm shaped like a leaf. "Mira," Click said, his mandibles moving nervously. "This is a token from my world. It represents balance and respect. I want you to have it. You taught me what both truly mean." Mira accepted it with a warm smile. "Thank you, Click. You learned fast. You never gave up even when things looked bad, 'cause you did not," Click replied. "You make danger look like just another problem to solve." They both laughed softly. Soon, Ral and C joined them, carrying small items as gifts. Ral gave her a crystal stone from his desert homeworld. "It absorbs heat during the day and gives warmth at night," he explained. "Like you. You gave us warmth in dark times." C handed her a glowing droplet from her body, sealed safely in a glass bead. "This holds my gratitude," she said in her gentle voice. "You shared your power when mine failed. Now I share a part of my light." Mira felt emotion rise in her chest. She placed the gifts carefully on her desk and looked at her friends. You all made it through because you believed in yourselves. I just reminded you what you already had inside. Rao looked at her quietly. And what about you, Mira? What will you do after graduation? She looked back out the window. I don't know yet. Maybe I'll go home. Maybe I'll explore new worlds. But wherever I go, I'll remember what we built here. The academy bell rang, calling all cadets to the grand hall. It was time. The graduation hall was massive, filled with banners from many species and planets. Rows of seats curved around a wide stage, and above, holographic images displayed the academy emblem, a star surrounded by open hands. Hundreds of students filled the hall, all wearing their respective uniforms. The air was filled with quiet excitement and nervous energy. Families and mentors watched from the upper decks, proud and emotional. Mira took her place among the human group. But she noticed that the other species kept glancing her way. She had become a symbol to many, not because she was the strongest or the smartest, but because she showed them what humans could be. The ceremony began. The academy headmaster, an ancient being with silver feathers, stepped forward. His voice was deep and calm. Today, you graduate not just as explorers or scientists, he said, but as ambassadors of understanding. You have learned that survival is not just strength of body, but strength of spirit. One among you reminded us all of this truth. Whispers moved through the hall. Everyone knew who he meant, the headmaster continued. Before we present the awards, I invite Instructor Vrek to speak. Vrek walked to the stage, his scaled body shining under the lights. He looked at the crowd and then at Mira. His eyes carried pride. Many of you studied theories about Deathworlds, he began. You saw them as dangerous and cruel. But then, a cadet stood among you who was born on one such world. She did not fear it. She embraced it. She showed us that life does not simply endure on those planets. It flourishes. Because humans are not defined by fear, but by their will to rise again. He gestured toward Mira. Cadet Mira of Earth, please step forward. The hall filled with applause as she walked to the stage. Her heart beat fast, but her steps were steady. She stood beside Vrek as the headmaster handed her a golden badge. This, the headmaster said, is the Medal of Enduring Spirit. It is given to those who demonstrate the highest level of courage, compassion, and resilience. Cadet Mira, you have reminded the galaxy that survival is more than just living. It is choosing to help others live too. Mira accepted the medal and bowed respectfully. She looked at the crowd, seeing her friends cheering with bright faces and glowing eyes. She felt warmth spread in her chest. When the applause faded, the headmaster invited her to speak. If you wish, share your final words with your fellow cadets. Mira stepped forward. She looked out at the sea of faces, so many shapes, colors, and species, it all united by learning and hope. When I came here, she began, I thought I was just another student. I didn't know much about the galaxy or how others lived. But I learned that every world, no matter how safe or dangerous, teaches something important. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Where I come from, we face storms, quakes, and creatures that could end us easily. But we never stop. We build, we fight, we care for one another. That is what it means to be human. And now I see that every one of you has that same spark inside. You just needed to see it through different eyes. Her voice grew softer, but stronger. We humans have a saying, we survive together or not at all. I believe that is true for the galaxy too. So wherever you go, remember that strength is not found in avoiding danger, but in standing with others when danger comes. When she finished, the hall was silent for a few seconds. Then the applause returned, louder, deeper, filled with genuine respect. Even Vrek clapped slowly, his eyes bright with pride. You have taught more in a few months than I have in years, he said quietly as she stepped down. After the ceremony, celebrations filled the academy halls. Cadets hugged, laughed, and exchanged farewells. Some were already preparing to travel to new assignments, while others planned to visit their home worlds. Mira stayed for a while, walking through the familiar corridors. Everywhere she looked, memories came alive. The classroom where she first said she was from Earth, the simulator where she faced the storm, The lab where she told stories of her planet. She stopped at the training yard, where the wind carried soft sounds from the nearby forests. There she found Rek waiting for her. "So," he said with a small smile, "are you ready to return to your death world?" Mira laughed lightly. "Maybe. Earth sounds peaceful compared to all this now." Peaceful. Rek raised a brow ridge. "From what I've heard, your storms are still raging." "They always are," Mira replied. "But that's what makes it home." Rek nodded thoughtfully. "You know, Mira, we've added new lessons to the Deathworld curriculum. They are based on your reports and your experiences. Future cadets will study not only the dangers of those worlds, but also the lessons of their people. You changed how the Academy sees Earth." Amira looked up at the stars again. "I didn't mean to change anything. I only wanted to show that we're not monsters or miracles. We're just people trying to live. And that," Rex said, "is what makes your kind extraordinary." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sky. Ships came and went, carrying new explorers into the unknown. That night, Mira packed her few belongings. The medal, the gifts from her friends, and her old Academy badge, she placed them all in a small box. She kept Click's metal leaf around her neck. It reminded her that balance mattered even in chaos. Before leaving, she recorded a message for the next class of cadets. "This is Myra of Earth. You may never visit my planet. But if you do, remember this. It will not welcome you easily. The air will bite, the storms will chase, and the ground will test your every step. But if you listen, if you learn, you will see its beauty. Because survival there is not just about staying alive. It's about finding meaning in every struggle. Be strong, be kind, and never stop moving forward." She sent the message to the Academy's archive, where it would play for generations to come. When her transport ship lifted off, Mira sat by the window, watching the Academy shrink behind her. It had become a place of change, a bridge between fear and understanding. As the stars stretched before her, she whispered to herself, "Earth may be a death world, but it is ours, and I am proud to be from there." Her journey was not ending. It was only beginning again. Out among the endless stars, carrying the lesson of humanity wherever she went.